Hello everyone. Good morning. How we doing today? If you're in the house, let me know that you're here, ready to get started. Welcome. Blessings to all. Thank you. First comment of the day. We start with a blessing. I love it. That is great. So today's topic is velocity banking support. How can I serve you? If you're here live today, what we're going to be doing is focusing, sorry about that, got a little echo going on. We're going to be focusing on the primary challenges, obstacles you're dealing with right now. So if you're live, you're watching, you're like, hey, I'm doing velocity banking, but I'm having trouble. I'm stuck at this point right here. I don't know when to pull money out of the HELOC to pay a certain bill. I'm having trouble incorporating credit cards into my strategy. Whatever it may be, now is the time. Drop your questions, be as detailed as possible. If you've got to put 4 or 5 paragraphs to explain your current situation, go ahead and do that because now's the time. Okay, so I'm dealing with that. I'm going to talk a little bit on two primary ways that you can use velocity banking on this channel. For the last 5-6 years, I've focused a majority of the case study videos, the topics on one way of doing velocity banking. And today I'll spend a little time, probably majority of our time, talking about that other way that we can use velocity banking that arguably is probably the most advantageous way to go. It just involves more risk than how it's typically taught. So that's one aspect. It can yield a much higher result, but again, there's definitely more risk to considering this other way, right? And what I am referring to is basically creating cash flow, okay? So velocity banking is a concept, it's a strategy, it's not a product, okay? It is a way of thinking. It's a theory that has been proven, right? It started in Australia, worked its way over to the United States. In the United States particularly, the way to incorporate this strategy is by getting in partnership with certain types of banks that offer certain types of products. Those products are credit cards, personal and business lines of credits, home equity line of credit in the first or second position. Those are your primary products from the bank. You also have a cash value collateral line of credit, but that involves another product that you would have to have called whole life insurance in order to have that particular strategy, right? In order to have that particular product, okay? And we're using those products predominantly to accelerate another debt that you have in your finances that you're trying to get rid of. This could be a mortgage, student loans, personal loans, other credit cards, any type of high interest debt that you're trying to eliminate to create cash flow. So that's the primary, most popular taught way of doing velocity banking is you're leveraging lines of credits to accelerate debts, to save money on interest, pay off your debt faster than the traditional way of getting out of debt. And in the end, that creates a guaranteed cash flow gain because you no longer have that debt. The other cool part about doing this particular strategy is you're remaining liquid in the process of eliminating debt. What do I mean by that? Well, if someone has a cash flow of $1,500 a month and they're sending 100% of that discretionary income toward their debt each and every month, they are not liquid. If an unexpected event comes up, a life circumstance, whatever it may be, they now have to pull from somewhere else to cover that unexpected expense. That's either coming from their savings, coming from liquidation of an asset, selling stuff, having to work more hours, make more money to cover that difference, or what most people do, they go into more debt. They're trying to get out of debt, Now they're going into more debt to cover this unexpected expense. So it's not cookie cutter, make extra payments each and every month and you'll get out of debt. If that were so easy, everybody would be pretty much debt free. But that is not the case. Why? Because life happens. And what most people who only teach debt elimination from the traditional standpoint of just making extra payments, you will never see them incorporate unexpected life expenses. You won't see it. So it always looks, cookie cutter, easy. This is so simple, right? Life's easy and all that stuff. But then the people like you that are watching end up having unexpected life things occur, and it derails your strategy. And to get back onto your debt elimination strategy takes usually the average person about 30 to 60 days to kind of recover, reorganize. Okay, what's my cash flow now this month? And then you're starting up those extra payments again. Whereas in the velocity banking space, you could have same income, same cash flow, same things going on, have an unexpected expense come up, and we know exactly how to handle it. Matter of fact, we incorporated it into our strategy so that we set proper expectations. We remained liquid, so when something did come up, we knew where to pull it from for the cheapest cost possible. And there was no delay time. There was no downtime. There was no questioning, okay, when do I start back up on my debt elimination process? Because when you're doing velocity banking, your first move is what we call a chunk. So you're taking a lump sum of money from the bank to eliminate another debt, to reduce interest, to create cash flow. So that's almost instant that's occurring typically, right? Depending on how big the debt is. So there's an instant interest savings, an instant cash flow gain typically, right? And then you're doing velocity banking at that point with all of your income in, expenses out, cash flow stays. So 100% of our cash flow in the first month of doing velocity banking is there. We didn't lose it because we used the bank's money first, and now we're simply paying ourselves back what we just did in that move. Then what happens is you're doing velocity banking, right? 2-3 months go by, boom, an unexpected $3,000 expense comes along. In your mind, you're like, okay, I have a line of credit here for 30 grand. I made a chunk of 10 and I owe 7. So now I have this $3,000 expense is going to come out of the line of credit. Boom, it's going to bring my line of credit up to 10. I don't have to think. There's no downtime. Immediately, I handle that unexpected expense because I already accounted for it in my chunking strategy and my numbers, all this stuff. And we move right along. Yes, it takes us a little bit longer to pay off the line, just as it would if you were doing traditional, making extra payments. Now it's going to take you longer to pay off that debt. But now the downtime spent, the amount of time thinking and stress, that person incurs more time over here. Whereas in velocity banking land, right? No downtime. We remain liquid. We didn't have to think about where the money's coming from. We have our tools in place. We borrowed at the cheapest cost possible. We're over there. They probably borrowed at the highest cost possible because they were not taught how to be better borrowers. See what can happen? So with that being said, I want to, spend a lot of time answering your questions. You can go wherever you like. Okay, this is for you the next hour, hour and a half. I just want to dedicate to the questions that you're dealing with right now. What are you holed up on? What's bothering you? What are you frustrated on? What math are you having difficulty running? Just start dropping your questions in, right? We got 26 people in the house. So I'm just going to take a quick read through these and see what's going on. Good morning to Ed. Blessings. I'm a financial person. I want to do this, help people with this, and doing it myself as well. So that's David Charles. Great. So David Charles, I'm gonna use your vision for being potentially a financial consultant, coach, strategist, someone in the financial services space where you want to help people incorporate this strategy and maybe others along the way, other strategies. You want to be able to do it for yourself. So I'm going to use you as a case study for the second way of doing velocity banking, which is creating cash flow by means of starting a business, right? By means of investing in yourself. So instead of paying off debt first, you would be using a line of credit, right? Again, this is more risk because now you're making a conscious decision to stay in debt, to carry these debts here that you may have. And you're saying, I can service these debts. I have this amount of cash flow, and I feel confident to go ahead and start this business now today, create more income. So you're focusing on the top line rather than the bottom line, right? You're going top line first, create cash flow. Then you're, say, saving money, invest, and then, say pay off debt would be last, right? So I'm just going to write that here. So pay off debt last, right? And we'll dive into that a little bit, right? So remind me of that, Charles. I'm going to use you as a case study. Nelson, hello. Scott, good morning. We got a call coming up soon. I'm looking forward to it. Am I late or early? You're on time. I just purchased Whole Life. Now I need to set it up. What do you mean by that? Purchased a Whole Life policy. Hopefully it was set up correctly, right? Do you mean I need to set up a strategy now? Is that what you mean? Let me know. Good morning, Philly. Good morning, Perez. Hello. All right, passive income, DIY renovation. Hello, hello. Cool. So let me show you the two different ways of doing this. Got to know our numbers, what's coming in, what's going out, total debts and cash flow. Velocity banking, predominantly on this channel, you'll see me covering case studies where I'm using the velocity banking concept or debt snowball or any debt elimination strategy to what? Accelerate debt, pay it off faster. So we're trying to pay off all debts, and in the process of doing that, somewhere along the line, either right when we get to, say, the final debts, maybe the mortgage, we start to save money, invest, to then create cash flow. So creating cash flow tends to be the last thing from a top line perspective, not necessarily a bottom line, right? When you pay off debt, you are creating more cash flow. Make sense? That's guaranteed because now the debt is eliminated. But being able to leverage debt to create more income puts you in a higher what? Cash flow position. If your lifestyle expenses, everything pretty much stays the same, you're increasing income, maintaining lifestyle expenses, maintaining and servicing debts. You're not allocating all your capital to debt elimination. What does that do? That creates a level of risk. If you're willing to take that level of risk, right, then there are some parameters that I think would be important to have in place to reduce the risk of going in this direction first, which is creating cash flow first by means of starting a business that what creates cash flow, helps you save money on taxes, interest, right? Then you invest, save that money to the point where you can say, write a check, pay off all your debts in one shot. And the cool part here is you create more options. There's more options here, more things to consider, more flexibility, but again, technically more risk. But there's going to be some parameters that I want to share to basically reduce that risk. Okay? Before I go into that, I want to see if there's specific questions that you guys have that you're struggling with right now. Okay? So Missy says, can you talk about using a HELOC to invest in the stock market? Sure. We can discuss that. Okay? And then, okay, Sean, yes, a strategy. Okay, so you're working on putting your strategy in place. Cool. All right. So I'm not seeing anything right now. I think you guys might be just excited to learn more about this create cash flow part here. I'm going to start with Charles, then I'll come to Missy. All right. And along the way, if you got questions, let me know. Let me know. Put it in the comments. Okay. So focusing on right here, using the velocity banking strategy to help you start a business to get you the capital that you would like to have to build that business, give you the support you need, give you the early capital you need to get that business going, to create a certain amount of income, get things rolling. Before doing that, right, one consideration, right, and I'm going to map this stuff out. So first, map out your debt-free timeline. What do I mean by that? Let's run velocity banking or debt snowball, whatever strategy you're using. Let's run that strategy to see how long, based off my current income, current lifestyle, current cash flow, to pay off all my debts, to then start saving money, investing to create cash flow. How long would it take you, right? So let's just create an example. Let's say doing velocity banking will take you 6 years to be completely debt-free. And let's say the total cash flow gain would be $4,500 guaranteed, right? And in order to get that $4,500, let's say you had $350,000. Now let's go a little higher. Let's go a little higher. Let's do 450,000. Okay. So in this example here, we're making a certain dollar amount. We have a certain lifestyle. We have a $450,000 debt. We have a potential cash flow guaranteed of $4,500 that could be recovered in 6 years or less. So let's say you did that. So now you have a timeline. Okay, if I stay here and I'm 40 years old, by 46, I can guarantee myself I'll be debt-free based on the income that I'm making right now, expenses that I have, cash flow, right? And I'll have an extra $4,500 a month guaranteed in more cash flow that could be used to help me save money, invest, to then create cash flow, to then create financial freedom. Or I'm going to now start a business. But in order to start this business, I need some capital. I need some working capital to get going. What are my options to build this working capital? Let's say that before getting out of debt completely, we're dealing with a cash flow of $1,500. Okay? So one way is to just simply save the money, $1,500 a month, until you've acquired enough capital to start your business. Let's say Charles wants to start a financial coaching practice. So I'm going to use Charles in my example here. I'm going to use David Charles, right? Here's his comment. He says, I'm a financial person. I want to learn how to do this. So there's an education learning curve. He wants to help people do it as well, right? So he wants to help people with the concept and do it himself, right? So I'm going to shamelessly plug myself in here. And let's say in his education and learning process, he wants to hire Denzel to be his financial and business coach, right? So there's a expense for that to hire accountability partner, a coach, a mentor, right? You're going to hire someone to help you start your business, okay? So there's that expense. Then there's the expense of starting a business, LLC, operating documents, EIN, opening the bank account, having a certain dollar amount to put in there. Then there's maybe some equipment that we need to buy and some marketing that we need to spend money on, okay? And I will wildly overestimate the startup costs, right? I'm just going to wildly overestimate on purpose, but just know in context here, this could be done for way less money, right? So let's map that out. Let's say he hires a coach. Say he hires myself and he pays me $4,000 for 1-to-1, right? And I'm going to coach him throughout the entirety of his business until he reaches financial success according to what we discuss. That may take 6 years, may take 3, longer. In that process, we become friends. He just pays me that one time. All right, so that's one expense. And let's just call it startup costs for biz. All right. And that's just getting all the LLC documents and, you know, all the fees, all the third-party fees that incur. Again, could be done cheaper, right? Overestimating here. Let's call it $1,500. That's like the most I've seen it done. That's when you like hire a whole like CPA lawyer team to kind of get this all set up. But obviously with technology nowadays and these online platforms, could be done for like say $200 to $400, and then you're spending another maybe $400 or $500 in third-party fees from the state. And depending on what state you're in, those fees could be, you know, quite high. But again, totally overestimated. Bear with me. Then we've got, say, equipment. He wants to be a financial person. Let's put a title on him. Let's call David a financial coach. So he wants to become a financial coach. And there's some equipment that, say, is either required or not necessarily required, but helpful to getting his business going. That could be a certification if he wants. That could be a camera, microphones, lighting, because in order for him to market his financial coaching practice, he wants to get on social media and he wants to do exactly what Denzel's doing, right? He wants to do what Christy Van is doing. He wants to do what Connor J. Wallace is doing. He wants to do what the Kwok brothers are doing with this particular strategy, right? So starting a YouTube channel is going to come with some expenses, right? Now, again, super overestimated here. Could be done for way less. Let's throw another $1,500 on that. And then finally, well, not finally, there's one more expense. We'll call it technology. And this is the back end stuff of your business, like an email marketing, a website, domain, landing pages, all the technology, a calendar link, different subscriptions. Let's throw another $1,500 on there. Again, could be done for way less. And then let's do a marketing budget of about $5,000. Let's add it all up. So we got 15 plus 5,000 plus 15 plus 15 plus 4K. So about $13,500 in startup costs. If we were to save the money right? 13,500 divided by 1,500. It's going to take him 9 months to basically start his business. That is the safest thing to do, right? No question about it. He could wait 9 more months, just simply save his $1,500 every single month, and he's planning on paying for these different things. Now, he might do it in stages, right? Like, he may first go get the LLC with the first month, and then wait 3 months, then hire me as his coach, and then another month, right? 15, and another month, 15 in technology, right? Marketing. Problem with doing that in stages is the recurring expenses that will come with this. You know, there'll be like maybe a recurring marketing budget, a recurring technology budget, recurring in equipments, things like that. Again, super overestimated, but 9 months. Or leveraging velocity banking, he has a couple options. Let's say he, in that 450, has a mortgage and he gets a HELOC. Second position, $50,000 HELOC. Maybe he gets a 0% credit card. Everything on here basically can get run on a credit card for the most part. So maybe he's got a 0% credit card, 21 months, purchases and balance transfers, 20K, right? So we've got some debt tools. The cheapest way would definitely be a 0% credit card. It takes care of all these fees, all these startup costs, doesn't pay a dime in interest, and saves him 9 months. So he gets to start 9 months sooner, right? And the goal here is to create enough wealth, enough income, that in 6 years or less, he can write a check for $450,000. Now, 6 years from now, this 450 will be less, right? Let's say in 6 years, making 4,500 in payments times 12 times 5. It's 270 grand. And let's take half off the top for interest, 135K. So let's say 450 minus 135. Let's just say 6 years from now, he owes 315 grand, okay, in debt. So basically what we want is the ability, by starting this financial coaching practice in his business, that in 6 years or less, we need to be able to write a check for 315 grand. Ideally, because we want this to beat this. What you don't want is you start a business with high expectations, you fail, you mess up, you put yourself into more debt because now what? You're leveraging debt, right? You got to factor that in now, right? There's more risk factors here, right? And if we didn't do our homework in terms of mapping out our debt-free timeline and considering both options, we can put ourselves in a really bad position. And this is often what a lot of us do. A lot of us watching right here, right now, you've done things like hire a guru. You spent $30,000, $50,000, $25,000. The most I've had a client spend on a guru was 50 grand. That's what I know so far. But you guys spend all this money with the hope, right, that you're going to create the income that you want, and that'll be able to wipe out all this debt. And then when that doesn't happen, now you're in $50,000 more of debt on top of the debt that you have. And now you got to incorporate that into the strategy. And it just creates an added amount of stress, increases your timeline getting out of debt. It just becomes a problem overall. Okay. Again, I will get to your questions. I didn't see any initially, so I'm going into the case study and then we'll come back, right? I'll go to Missy and I'm gonna address your question. So hang in there. So we have our parameters here. Map out your debt-free timeline. In this example, we have 6 years or less, $450,000 of debt, there's $4,500 of guaranteed cash flow. 6 years from now, after making payments of $4,500 a month, there'll be, say, we're just, throwing out an example, 315 grand left of debt, which would mean that this person, David Charles here, would ideally, we want to be in a position where we have the option to write a check for 315 grand, wipe out all the debt, immediately increases his cash flow by $4,500, right? And that's more cash flow for his business, right? And let's say David Charles, like everyone else, has a 9-to-5, right? So he has a job that is going to fund this business, this financial coaching practice. And the idea is to be able to replace that job where he has enough income coming in to basically replace the 9-to-5 and maintain the same amount of cash flow. That's another parameter here. So we would leave the job after business produces equal or more income. That would be the safest way to exit your 9-to-5. Another parameter. You could potentially do it sooner. You could make an argument that the money you're making over here tax-wise compared to the 9-to-5, that if, let's say he's netting 6 grand over here, and let's give him income. Let's net him an income of $7,500, right? So his annual gross is much higher than what his net is at the 9-to-5, right? He's cash flowing 15. But in business, you can technically make less money than your 9-to-5 and still net $7,500 because of the way the taxes work. So you net more of your dollars over here. So you could make an argument for leaving your job sooner based on your net income that you produce now at your job. Me personally, right? I would personally wait until my income is equal to or more than what I'm doing at my 9-to-5. Right? That's just me personally, what I would do, right? Even if it took 6 years to get there. That's just me, right? Now, the way that I would not do that is if I'm either spiritually called in that direction. So if I'm spiritually being led, this is where my faith would override my logic. If I'm spiritually being led by my father, and my father tells me, Denzel, I need you to leave this 9-to-5 in order for you to do the work that I've actually called you to do, that has provided you comfort, a lifestyle, right? This is going to be case by case, but let's just say that was, my father is now overriding my logic and saying, nope, now's the time to leave, even though my financial coaching practice may only be netting, say, 6,000, right, in income per month net. So that would mean technically my cash flow is 0, right? So that would be really tight, right? But again, now you're being led in faith, and then maybe that very next month, you're now making double because you have just rerouted 40 to 50 hours of your time into your business. And now you're giving yourself that time to potentially make up for the difference, okay? So that would just be, these are just parameters, right? Everyone's going to be different. Just giving you mine. So leave the job after the business produces equal or more income, right? Where you can still net a decent amount of positive cash flow per month. And then the other thing I would have in place, 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Okay? Having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses also reduces the stress, giving you that runway to basically build that financial coaching practice that David Charles wants to have. All right? So parameters, 315, 13.5, startup costs. We sped it up 9 months. We're starting right out the gate. Now we have to figure out the business strategy here. What financial products, services are we going to provide in order for him to generate the type of income that we would need to basically write that check in 6 years or less? How do we run the math on that? So I'm going to give you a new set of parameters, and I'm going to delete this part right here. I'm going to keep my bottom line parameters. I'm just going to delete this. Okay. Again, you can, go back, stop, and capture the notes there. We're going to move right along. All right. Here's how I draw out my parameters. Put that 1,500 back, and let's say cost of living, right? These are the 4 major numbers in this example. Cool. So this is going to be some technical math here, so bear with me. Technical math. Now, what I'll do for David here is I'm going to use my current pricing. No, I'll use my early pricing when I first started my financial coaching practice. So I will break down what I was selling things for, and then how I increase those pricing and services and things like that. And we'll just run the math and see, okay, how many people do we need to serve to generate the income that we would need to be able to leave the 9 to 5. The first goal in using velocity banking to create cash flow by means of starting a business, first goal, as soon as humanly possible, I want to be able to generate enough income to be able to leave my 9 to 5. Because if I can generate close to, equal to, or more than my 9 to 5 net income part-time, right? Part-time, then full-time, that's going to give me the confidence to go ahead and quit that job, go full-time in the financial coaching practice, and get things rolling, get things moving, right? So we're going to run some numbers on my pricing from my first year in business versus now my 6th year in business. And this should give David, right, an example of how he should price his services according to the lifestyle, according to the goals that he's trying to accomplish, right? So when I first started, a 1-hour consultation was $97. I had an online financial course for $7 monthly, or $70 annual. And then I had a full one-to-one financial coaching service for $997. So these are the prices just for financial coaching. Now, If David did what I did and maybe gets an insurance license and maybe sells some life insurance, some term, some whole life, maybe sells annuities, maybe disability insurance, other types of insurance products that could provide more commission, right? To give him another stream of income on top of the same client, right? Then that's going to reduce how many clients he would need to have to get to this, our first number, which is we want to get to $7,500 a month in income, right? How do we get there? Okay, so let's look at that. This is first year in business, sixth year, 6 years in, okay? Now I do 300 an hour. The online course is $50 monthly or $497 annual. $997 lifetime for the course. The full one-to-one service is now $3,997. And then I have a boot camp, which I'm starting for the first time in my 6th year. David could start in his first year, right? This is something I did not know in my first year. But now I'm doing a financial boot camp, which is a shorter period of time. It's a 9-week program, and it costs $2,000, so $1,997. So these are the prices 6 years in versus first year in. How many clients do we need to create $7,500 a month, right, in income? What would it take? What would be the breakdown here, right? So 7,500 divided by $97. I need to do 77.3 phone calls, right? So that's 77 hours divided by 4 weeks. So that's roughly 19.25 hours a week. If he's already pushing 40-hour weeks plus 19.25, he's working 60 hours a week, right? And if he's working 50 hours a week, he's working 70 hours a week. So that's going to require 50 to 70 hours additional, 59, I should say. And if David Charles is a married man, kids, then the risk here is we could lose our marriage. We could disconnect from our children. We'll have other people raise our children. And then the kids won't be so connected to dad. And then mom feels, pressure, right? So that is a risk. That's a spiritual, emotional, internal family risk for the sake of making more money. So we would have to be strategic here in terms of how many consults would he be doing at $97 a month, and then how do we potentially make up for getting people in the financial course at $7 a month, right? And then maybe taking people on a full service at $997. Okay, so if we did like a bit of a split here to say, okay, let's say that David only has an extra 10 hours a week, 10 to 15, right? How would we break this down? So maybe we can do 5 to 7 consults, or as high as 10 to 15. So I'll do 10 consults a week times 97, $970 times 4 weeks will be $3,880. $3,880. And let's say that before each consultation or after each consultation, he can enroll them into an upsell, right? Either an upsell or a downsell. So they pay $97, and it would basically, after he diagnosed, because the consultation is like going to the doctor for the first time. You're getting a diagnosis, you're getting a physical exam. We go to financial coach for a consultation, you're getting a physical examination on your personal finances. So David would be diagnosing people every single week. And then he's going to give them a prescription and say, hey, you need to go through my financial course. I need you to go through these steps over the next 6 to 9 months. This is where you're going to focus on, right? And one time a month, we'll have one consultation, $97, and you pay the $7 a month. So now one client at $97 a month, let's say, on top of $7, just became a $104 client as opposed to $97. So it starts to increase based on the amount of time that we have here. We can be more strategic. So let's say out of 10 clients, 10 people booking calls every single month, we have a guarantee, say $970 right there. And then let's say 5 upsell to the $997, 5 downsell to $7 a month. All right, so let's map that out. That's $7 a month times 5. So we get another $35 monthly. And then $997 times 5 is $4,985. $970 plus 35 plus 4,985 is $5,990. So either as high as $5,990 or $3,880, which is 10 clients every single week, right? Could be the same clients, right? People booking phone calls every week, right? Just depends. Every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, whatever it may be. Could be as high as $8,900. So what's happening is he is servicing 10 to 40 clients. Is that actually sustainable on a 10 to 15 hour work week? Probably not. And you need to have a phenomenal marketing strategy to even acquire that many clients, 10 to 40. Okay? So his YouTube better be exploding just like Christy Van did or mine did. What's the likelihood of that? So there's a lot of risk here for that low pricing. Would not work for that situation. Now, you could make an argument, though, that you have to start somewhere. So that's key. So the numbers may not make sense right away, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you don't start this business, right? If you're being called spiritually, let me inject the faith again. If you're being called spiritually into this business, and logically it makes sense, and you have the skills, gifts, and talents to proceed and do this, great. Let's move forward. You still have your $7,500 a month coming in. So a good unique strategy to consider here would be any profit that this business generates, you simply stack and save. You don't spend it. You don't put it toward debt elimination. You're building up capital. Ideally, within 21 months or less on that 0% credit card right here that we ran, the 13.5 of startup capital, this business is going to have some monthly operating expenses, right? through his, say, marketing technology right there alone, right? There might be some, so our cost of living may go up a little bit, right? So we also need to make sure that we can bring in at least enough money to cover the business costs, business expenses. That's where your seed capital would initially give you the runway for a couple months to get things going. And then your free cash flow, your $1,500 a month in free cash flow from your 9 to 5 is also helping fund the business until the business can fund itself, right? There's going to be that gap, that period that we need to fill. So again, a parameter that I would add here is to say any and all profits save. Any and all profits save. Just save it. Don't invest it in stock market, crypto, just save that money, because what's our intent here? This is where you guys start doing this, right? Voila, right? It gets crazy. We set out with an initial goal. We want to be able to leave our 9 to 5. We're delaying leaving our 9 to 5 if you go buy Bitcoin, if you go buy the shiny object, if you go hire another guru on top of the guru you already hired, right? If you go seeking out education in 10, 15 different places, buy 15 different courses, you're delaying the initial goal. We have to learn how to get very narrow, and many of you are terrible at this, right? You're really, really bad. And that's okay. Why? We become aware. Oh, I'm not so good at this. I now have awareness. My breakthrough moment is when I can consistently stick to one thing and make that the main thing. You're going to have a breakthrough and realize, oh my goodness, what I was doing before was absolutely not working. Even though this took longer, in the now, what you have to do is actually compare what you were doing the last 3 to 5 years. And if this took 9 months, you could say that this absolutely went much faster than 3 to 5 years. But many of us don't run that math because we don't know how to run the math on history versus present. You're presently taking the next 9 months. That sounds like a long time, but you've been in debt. You've been at your 9 to 5 for 10, 15 years. And you're telling me in 9 months, potentially by running all the math here, that we can get out of that in 9 months? And the only way to do it is if I don't buy the Bitcoin, if I don't invest in AMC, GameStop, if I don't go with that real estate opportunity that just fell in my lap, if I don't do this side hustle real quick, like boom, stay right here, stay narrow, stay focused. Big things can happen, big things. So any and all profits, me personally, I'm just stacking that, keeping that in the business account, saved. I don't care what it's earning. It's just parked. The initial goal is to pay off whatever debt I incurred on the business so that I don't stack that and start creating more interest and creating another payment. I don't want that. I want to remove it. This needs to be a debt-free business. My business is separate from my personal. So this needs to start out the gate debt-free without paying any interest, ideally. And then whatever it profits, I'm saving. As I build up at least 3 to 6 months of expenses, get that parameter. So that's going to happen first, which is going to get you closer to leaving your 9 to 5. So you build up 6,000 times 6 worth of expenses. Let's say that was our goal, right? Boom. So we basically, in our first year, if we profit 36 grand, great. If it takes 2 years, great. Doesn't matter. You're still working your 9 to 5. You still have $1,500 of cash flow every month. That $1,500 of cash flow is also contributing potentially to the expenses of saving, right? The saving, or it's covering your monthly cost to operate this practice here. Okay? So 36K. That would give us a nice run rate that say 9 months from now or 1 year from now, if it took 1 year to build that many clients, that's cool too, right? If we go slow to go fast, I think that's even smarter. But again, according to these numbers, it's gonna take a long time. So David Charles would have to adjust. He doesn't want to just copy what Denzel did because, oh, that somehow worked. No, maybe there's somewhere between first year and 6th year that this kind of comes together based on who David Charles is going after, what's his target market, who he's serving, that sort of thing. So if we run the numbers on here, watch how much easier it gets, right? I'm trying to make $7,500 a month. Divide that by $300. We go from 77 phone calls, 77 consultations, not necessarily 77 different people, could be the same people, but we go from 77 down to 25. Divided by 4, that's about 6 consults a month. A week, sorry. So that's 6 hours out of the 10 to 15, and the other 4 hours could be dedicated toward the marketing efforts to keep bringing in more clients, right? So that is just consults. If we create other offers that make sense for our clients, then that's going to help reduce the time. So if he creates a financial course before or after the consult, this is how I set myself up, is I have a financial course that I have people go through before they ever talk to me and before they ever sign up for the financial course, they're on YouTube. So if David has the YouTube channel or social media, whatever it is, it's all the free value he's giving away. He's giving a ton of free value, building up a strong audience base of people that are getting tremendous value from him. And then depending on what that person can afford, they're going to jump to a consult. So like, oh my God, that video was great. Boom. They jump to a consult, $300, you have that. Or they do the financial course, which takes none of your time. You put the time in one time, and now it's going to create this subscription type of a service. And you can get very creative with how you want to offer that. So let's say that if we can get, I'll use the same math here. Say we get 5 clients on anywhere between $50 a month, $497, or $997 lifetime. Right? So let's say we get 1 lifetime client, $997, 1 annual, $497, and let's do 3 monthly people, $50. So $150, right? And if we can do 6 consultations a week, what's happening in that consult, right? He's diagnosing the individual, and he's going to downsell to the financial course. Hey, before you go up with me long term, based on your numbers, based on your finances, based on what you can afford, I believe you should start here, $50 a month. This is going to build you up. This is going to help you recover at least $500 or more in cash flow per month. Boom. So we're making these declarations to the folks, getting them ready. Then there's other ones that are like, great, make good money, good income. Yep, I'm ready to go full on with you. And they jump to the $39.97, right? So that's how you're operating your financial coaching practices. You're having your consults, you're diagnosing, giving people the action steps, right? The next offer, the next place you want them to essentially go. Let's say we get 1 of the 25, 1 at $3,997, and let's get 1 in a boot camp, right? So now that we have more offers and the pricing is higher, Let's see how these numbers turn out. Okay. So at $997 lifetime, $497 annual. We got 3 people at $150. Then we got 1 at $3,997 and 1 at $1,997. Look at that. Came out perfect. $7,638. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 clients. So I didn't even have to do 25 calls that month. Now it's just 7 clients. At just 7 clients, giving them 10 to 15 hours a week of my time. Could those other clients that were 497s, 50s, 2000s, can they eventually come to the full program? Absolutely. So you're increasing the lifetime value of just those 7 clients. So again, Charles, the number may not be here. You may be overpricing yourself, right? Potentially. So maybe somewhere in the middle between first year and 6th year, or you might be bold and say, yeah, well, Denzel, I got 20 years of experience, right? So again, you cannot compare me to you. You just want to use my experience as some kind of a template, right? And then maybe you're listening to someone else and you compare these different templates, but you don't want to compare your capabilities to my capabilities, because we're totally different people. We're 2 totally different people, right, David? So you don't want to do that. You do want to compare structure to structure. That's cool, because structures can be duplicated, right? Systems can be duplicated, but your unique capabilities, your unique talent, skills, you want to take the time to really put a strong valuation on that, then deliver it to the marketplace. Now, if the marketplace does not respond, you pivot. You either decrease pricing. If you get an overwhelming response, guess what? Now you're in high demand. You're going to need to increase your pricing so that your quality of service does not go down, especially when you're initially a one-man show. So you don't want to make that early mistake. I made that early mistake in my first year. Everybody, I was doing consults, and I had tons of people sign up at $7 a month, and the people were buying $997 like it was hotcakes. Like just it was on fire. But I got to a point where I had too many clients. So I had to get to a point where I had to close the doors for a period of time to actually reorganize, restructure. Okay, how am I going to work this? What makes sense? Nowadays, I have I have a bigger audience now, more people than ever before reaching out, but I actually only serve a certain amount of people every single year, and I'm able to live the lifestyle that I'm after, the vision, the financial vision that I have for my life, and I'm able to serve these specific clients at the highest level because they're not having to be so constrained with the amount of time that they have with me. I'm able to give it my all with each and every client that I serve because of the way I structure this. And that only came with 6 years of doing this, right? So again, we know that this is really difficult according to the 10 to 15 hours a week that David has in this particular example. And we also see here that this is very, way easier, way simpler with these pricing, but is now just a matter of, will people hire him at that rate, right? He would have to build the credibility and authority and influence however long that may take, right? So maybe he falls somewhere, maybe it's $150 an hour, maybe it's $200 an hour, right, for consults. And then instead of a $50 course, maybe he's got a $25 course, or maybe he goes a little bit higher, right? And it just adds more value. We get very creative to basically create the income that you want based on the amount of clients you want to serve. You also want to ask yourself, David, okay, do I want to serve 59 to 70 plus clients, 10 to 40 plus clients a month? Or do I just want to work with 7 highly qualified clients? Or do I feel like personally that's not enough and I want to work with maybe 10 to 15? A good parameter here is to figure out how many people do you want to serve that you believe you can serve at the highest level, right, of service. And reverse engineer back your time. How much hours does it take to serve one individual, right, per month? And how much money do we need to bring in to get to that number that you're trying to get to? Okay? So powerful stuff here. All right, I'm just going to take a quick water break. Give me a second. All right. Took my quick water break there. I'm going to come back. Let's look at these comments. Let's see what's going on in the chat. If you're getting value from this, comment below. This was super valuable. Being able to see the numbers broken down like this, right? A real life example of what could potentially be the case, the parameters. Give me some feedback on that if you like that. And let me know if you're still with me, David. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. Missy, you're next. I will come to that question. Okay, the question is, can this be done with a fixed income? Absolutely. Right, we need to look at your lifestyle. How do you currently live? What's your positive cash flow? What's the business that we're going after? Right, so yeah, this could be done on a fixed income. I have a question. DML. I did not see. Our current home, and we're currently looking for another home. We plan on renting our current home out, but we're on a fixed income. Should I just pay off my current mortgage first for the cash flow and make it a first lien HELOC, or tackle the bad debt first? My current cash flow is about $1,000, but I know that my new mortgage slash rent will be more expensive, right? Than and something nerve on what nervous, and I'm nervous on what my next move will be. So this definitely qualifies for a consultation, Donnie. But if I had to give some insight here, I want to go back. So we need to figure out what the HELOC interest rate is, what the interest rate is on that $50,000 mortgage. What is the total cash flow recovery on the $40,000 versus the $59,000? Right? These are questions that I want you to sit with, map out this. Right? You can go back, rewind. Okay. Then once you've done that work, then we need to ask ourselves, second part, how quickly do we need to move? Can we potentially stay in this smaller home? Would that potentially make more sense until I say A, velocity banking on the $40,000 of bad debt to recover the cash flow needed, and let's say that cash flow difference would put you in a position where, yes, in that new home that you would be in that new payment would make up for that cash flow gain that I got from the 40K. So let's map out a strategy. Okay, we're going to First, stay in the home that we're currently in. Do velocity banking on just the 40 grand. How much cash flow recovered? How much interest savings is that? How long is it going to take? Let's say it takes 1 year, right? 1.5 years, whatever it may be. Are we willing to stay in the home that long for that duration? Does it make sense, right? Can we do that? Honestly, right? Like, okay, can the kids bunk together in a room? Like, can we make it happen, right? For a period of time. Let's talk with wife about that. Let's see how that makes sense. If so, then you're putting the least amount of risk in your situation on a fixed income. Say, yeah, we're gonna duke it out in this smaller home for a period of time. Everyone's on the same page. We're gonna have family meetings every quarter, every month or so, to make sure we're all on the same page, managing emotions, expectations, what to expect in the future. Let's get rid of this 40. When we get rid of that 40, I now have more cash flow. I now have the ability to get into this new home. Once the HELOC has zeroed out, I can leverage the HELOC for the down payment to get me into that new home. I then move out, right? My cash flow is still positive once I go into that new place, and I rent out the home that I was in, hopefully at a rent rate that is higher than your current mortgage. So now you get positive cash flow from there, and you remove the mortgage payment, right? And now you're in the new home in a better place. For me, that would sound like the best case, least risk scenario, in my opinion, based on the details that you have given me. And I wouldn't go for the first lien HELOC because you're injecting more risk, right? You're injecting more risk, and you're putting all of your debt at a variable interest rate, as opposed to that 59K that is sitting on a fixed rate at a fixed payment, and you intend to move out of that home and rent it out. I have no intent of paying that off personally. I don't think that would be wise. For me personally, right? If it's a spiritual matter, if it's a personal matter, okay, cool. Right? Have to start somewhere. Facts. Nice to be able to shift gears, especially as a business owner. Beautiful. This is awesome. Okay, great. You've been consistently amazing. That's why I'm for life, my friend. Awesome. Sandy, FYI, I think your mic died. We can hear you from your camera mic. Oh, I think you're right. That's crazy. So let's do this. Yep. Thank you, guys. Okay. See, David? This is why this stuff's important. Right? This is why when you take this kind of risk, take the equipment, factor it in, you're gonna have these moments. Something's wrong with my mic. I don't know what's going on. Thank you for pointing that out. So let's see if I can fix this. Cool part is we went through everything, and I think for the most part you guys could hear me, even though it was coming from the computer. And yeah. Yeah, my audio's back, but it's not the one that I want. I want this one to work. It's not working the way I want. Okay. Alright, so I may have to cut the stream, unfortunately. Are there any other questions? I'm now leaning over here because my microphone is coming out of my computer here. So go ahead. Any other questions, thoughts? I need to go to Missy, right? You talk about using a HELOC to invest in the stock market, right? Let's do the math on that. I'll do Missy, and then we'll come back. See this? It's like frozen. I don't know why that is. And it won't turn off. This is the first time that this microphone has failed me. I still love it though. The thing is awesome. But as of right now, it's not playing nice, fortunately. Alright. So hopefully you enjoyed that case study. Now we're going to look at Missy. Okay. Alright, Missy. So, Missy wants to invest in the stock market, wants to use a HELOC to do so. If you're still with me, Missy, tell me the interest rate on your HELOC. I would like to know. Like to know. I'm going to use the current interest rate on HELOCs right now. Let's say Missy has a HELOC for $100,000, 8.5%. I'll use the same numbers here, right? And let's say you want to invest in the stock market. First thing we need to know, what is your goal? Right? What's your goal? What is your strategy? Right? Are we looking to create tax-free income by investing in the stock market? Are we looking for growth, accumulation, high-risk stocks? Like what are we looking to do? Options, trading, forex, right? Like what do we want to do in the stock market, particularly? Let's figure that stuff out. Right. So Missy said 4.99. Then it goes to 8.75 afterwards. So I'll use those numbers. And I'll use these numbers, Missy's, but same parameter. Right? You're gonna do the same parameter here. We take cash flow times 12, 18 grand, 100K times 2/3. Chunk range. So basically what we're saying here is in terms of our leverage capacity is our chunk range. We shouldn't exceed 66. Anything below 18, lower risk. And if Missy is in debt, right, then instead of starting a business, we're deciding to use velocity banking to create cash flow by means of investing in other people's businesses and hopefully creating enough of a rate of return to outperform whatever we're paying in interest, and also the interest that she's getting charged on debts over there, or else it's really not going to make sense. So you want to factor that in. How much debt do you have? How much interest are you currently paying over here versus the amount of interest that you're creating over here, right? And it's not as easy as, let's say your average cost of interest on 450 grand is 6%. And if you go earn 10 and you say, well, 10's higher than 6, you're absolutely wrong, right? Because 450 grand times 6% is 27,000. If you invest 18,000 and earn 10%, what is that? Bad math. Some of us do this. Some of us are doing really, really bad math when it comes to your investing strategy. You don't realize how much you're paying in interest per year servicing debt, and you're trying to earn 10 to 12%, and all you ran the math on was how much interest it costs you to invest to earn that 10 to 12, and then you minus the difference and you have a net positive, but not realizing that 18 got swallowed up in this 27, right? So you actually need to be, you need to be here, but where can I get that? So that's going to require education and strategy to be able to produce 40 to 50% in income per year. You have to incorporate an actual investing strategy in the stock market. It's not going to be as simple as just put money here, put money there, put money there, right? But I'm still going to run it anyways. Let's say your strategy was that you're investing for the long term, right? A very, very long term investing strategy that will eventually outperform what I pay in interest over the next however many years I carry this debt. Let's say you did that instead. And you want to create as much tax-free income as possible in your chunking strategy that you make, right? So let's say that of the 18 to 66K that you chunk of the 100K HELOC that you have, let's say you dedicate money to a Roth IRA and an HSA, right? And then the rest went into a brokerage account. This is how I would do this personally if this was my strategy. Is I would personally be very conscious of what mechanism, what product am I using to get into the stock market? Am I using a brokerage account? Am I using an HSA? Am I using a Roth IRA? What is the mechanism, right? Let me just look up real quick what the annual Roth IRA contribution is in 2024. I believe it did go up. Okay, so now it's 70,000 for those under 50, and for those 50 and older, 1,000 catch-up contribution for 50 and over. All right. So let's say Missy is under 50. So let's give her 7,000. And then let me look up annual HSA contribution limit is 4,000 150. Family coverage is 8,300. Right? So then let's say 7,000 plus 83, so that's 15. Let's just say you did exactly what your cash flow was each year. Right? But instead of monthly, right, you're dumping it all at once. So now the money grows the entire year, as opposed to not. And now it's just a matter of, okay, where is my 7,000 being invested? Where is my HSA money being invested? Where is my brokerage account being invested in? Right? If you simply just did S&P 500, what has the S&P 500 yielded over the last 30, 40 years? You will hear the financial gurus say somewhere around 10 to 12%. Right? And by doing velocity banking, leveraging interest anywhere between 4.9 and 8.75, when you do the strategy, with our 1,500 basically paying ourselves back what we leveraged for the whole year, we can most likely bring our cost of borrowing maybe in this range, 3 to 5% net on 18 grand. So anywhere between $540 to $900 a year. And you could probably do it much better, Missy. Proper velocity banking strategy, definitely bring that number down, because it's not going to take you a whole entire year to pay back the HELOC off. Right? So that is our potential range. Let's say we use these 3 different products: tax-free growth, HSA. We'll technically tax deferred, and if used properly, can be tax-free and tax-free use, right, later on. And then the brokerage account, that's taxable, but there's probably tax strategies that we can incorporate along the way. But coming back to this point right here, right, you will often see the gurus say that, the S&P has averaged 10 to 12%, right? So they're making an assumption based on averages. And Missy, you never want to rely on this number called average rate of return, okay? Average rate of return is the most deceptive number in finance. It's simply not true, okay? When you actually factor in the losses over the last 30, 40 years of the S&P 500 compared to an actual rate of return of, say, 12% every single year, the number is dramatic in difference. We're talking probably millions of dollars in difference, depending on how much money we're paying in over that same 30, 40 year period. So let's say over 30, 40 years, you pay in $18,000, you contribute $18,000 a year into the stock market, and all you buy is the S&P 500. The average rate of return the last 30, 40 years, let's say, is a positive 12%. But that's actually you're not actually getting 12% on your money every single year. There's going to be years where you lose 30%, gain 25%, lose 10, gain 40, lose 15, gain 1, gain 8, gain 9, right? And when you actually look at that, loss, gain, loss, gain, loss, gain, loss, gain, it's nothing compared to the gains of 12% compounded over 30, 40 years. It's a massive difference, massive. If you want to go look at this, there is a video that you can watch that breaks this down. There's a gentleman, his name is Todd Langford. Okay, some of you may know him. And he did a video with Caleb. His YouTube channel is called Better Wealth. So I'm going to pull up that video real quick. It's a powerful, powerful video. And he's got this super cool spreadsheet, breaks all the numbers down. He factors in taxes, inflation, all this stuff. Let's share my screen real quick so that you can see it. So this is the video right here, right? This is the video that it's called How to Maximize Returns in Retirement Using Life Insurance. They're talking about life insurance, but there's going to be part of the conversation where he talks about just the truth and numbers of the S&P 500 and how it's performed over the years when you look back. That's a powerful, powerful video there. And I'm pretty sure he's probably done some good stuff on his YouTube channel directly. So here is the video. Okay, check that out. Todd Langford. Very, very, very smart dude. Okay. So, okay, yeah, Missy said looking for growth. Got it. Just from an investment perspective, what are your thoughts on taking funds from HELOC at 8% to invest in an opportunity offering 13.5 guaranteed? Right. Well, that's pretty cool. Right. If you're telling me there's a contract, I'm gonna get guaranteed 13.5% rate of return, and doing velocity banking on a debt tool at 8%, arguably, you could potentially, right? We can potentially get a tax deduction on the interest that we pay on the HELOC, one factor. But do we actually pay 8% on our HELOC if we're doing velocity banking? How much lower can I bring that cost of borrowing down to have a higher profit on the 13.5%? And is the 13.5% paid quarterly, semi-annual, or annual? Because that's going to change things quite a bit. Right? So proceed with extreme caution. You look at the video. Okay, great. Yes. If we're going to leverage debt to invest in someone else's business, in someone else's production, to me, you're taking on a massive amount of risk. I'm only cool with it if you run the math to also factor in how much are you paying in interest on your current debts, how much does it cost you to borrow to make that investment, and actually look at the internal rate of return each year, not just average rate of return, because that's a big deception for you to do that per particular move. A lot of factors that I would have you put in place, a lot of parameters that I would have put in place. Now, if you did what David Charles did, which in my opinion is way less riskier than investing in someone else's business, is saying, okay, what are Missy's skills, gifts, and talents? What potential business, what opportunity could we get ourselves involved into where it requires some of your activity, your time and effort to produce the cash flow we're looking to acquire. And when you're dealing in that realm, it's no longer $1 to get a rate of return of 10%, 12%, 15%. In business, it's more like you put $1 in and we get $2 back, we get $3 back, we get $4 back. So that's a 100, 200, 300, 400% rate of return by you investing in you, in your business. And leveraging debt at 8%, to make 500%, 400%, 300% minus taxes, inflation, things like that, to me, makes up for all of the costs to get involved, right? So, let's see what other questions we got. I want to make sure. Okay, yeah, I missed this one. How do you know if a first position HELOC makes more sense than a 3.5% mortgage? Okay. So it sounds like you're in a situation where you have an existing mortgage at 3.5%. And if you're asking yourself, should I convert that whole 3.5% note to a 8.5%, 9.5% first position HELOC, right? Or even if it had an intro rate at 6.5%, 7.5% for a year, 3 years, or whatever it may be, I would say, depending on how early you are into that mortgage, you probably could find a calculator, someone to talk to that might sell you into doing that, all right? That might convince you that that's the way to go. For me personally, I probably might not do it, because what am I gaining from it? If my intent is just debt elimination, how do I just pay this 3.5% off faster? If you're very fixated on just paying off the debt, a first position HELOC may not be the answer. We can look at a second position HELOC, because what you also have to factor in with a first position HELOC is the closing costs. So there's closing costs and you're at a much higher rate. With a second position HELOC, we could probably get a closer rate, intro rate, and do velocity banking for only a period of time to get a bit of a boost on that debt elimination process on that 3.5% mortgage. So maybe we're only doing velocity banking for a period of time on the mortgage and then stopping and then just snowball your way out of debt. 1. 2, could we also incorporate 0% credit cards to also help with the debt pay down of that mortgage, instead of having to replace the entire 3.5% mortgage to a 8.5%, 9.5% first lien HELOC, right? The only reason why that would make sense, why you would want to do that, is because you're trying to increase liquidity, right? You're trying to access a lot of equity in the property without getting a second mortgage, like a second loan, and having 2 payments. You can basically replace your mortgage payment into a first lien, have a lower obligation interest-only payment, and then start investing with that other capital. So you're doing it for liquidity purposes, you're doing it to increase income, then that would make sense. If we're just looking at a pure debt elimination play, it may not be that valuable, right? And that's just me. I know that there's other velocity banking people that would tell you right away, yeah, go get a first lien HELOC, because they're getting a referral fee of a couple $100 every time they say that. So there might be some incentive there. The reason why I know that is because I myself get incentivized to push first lien HELOCs, because they pay a referral fee to those banks that we, on my channel, other channels, recommend. So I'm just not going to play that game, right? I'm always going to run the numbers and see what makes sense. All right. Let's see. All right, I think there's a lot going on. I'm being asked what my net worth is. What info were you referring to? Please help me out on that. Oh, this might be a bot. I think this might be a bot. Okay. Interesting. Perfect. That's what I'm thinking. Yep. Cool. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that helped. I am going to work on my microphones here. It was giving me some problems today. It says, thank you for your feedback. Appreciate it. Much appreciated. Awesome, awesome. So I think I covered everyone here. Covered Missy. Covered David. Awesome. Now, for those of you that want to take the step further, want to work with me one-to-one, click the links below. Reach out. Got my email, my website. Contact me. I got a boot camp starting up soon. Right, July 15th. One-to-one. Help you with your numbers, whether it's velocity, whether it's infinite, whether it's just personal finance, getting your numbers in order, running these different things, whatever you may want to do, run the numbers on the whiteboard. I have a ton of fun doing that with my clients. You can be that next person. Just reach out and we'll make it happen. All right? Have a wonderful day, everyone. God bless, and we'll be talking soon. Bye now.